Namo Narayana and welcome back. We're working through Adi Shankara's Sata Sloki. We're on the second half of it. Today we're starting with verse 61. Though it is known to everyone that space exists both before and after a particular pot is made, still it is wrongly thought by all that the space inside the pot comes into existence only when the pot is made, that the space inside is destroyed when the pot is destroyed, that when the pot is moved from one place to another place, the space inside also moves along with it, and that space takes on the shape and size of the pot. Similarly, though the self exists always and is all-pervasive, people wrongly think that it comes into existence when the universe comes into existence, that it ceases to exist when the universe is dissolved, and so on. A bit of jaggery is sweetness itself in every particle of it. A slab of camphor is full of fragrance in every bit. Similarly, this wide world, attractive with trees, mountains, towns, gardens, and temples, which has no reality of its own, is seen as existing and sentient only because of being pervaded by the substratum, the self, which alone is existence and pure consciousness, just as jaggery is sweetness itself and camphor fragrance. When a drum is beaten or an instrument like the veena is played, one is not able to grasp the particular notes by themselves, but one knows the particular notes only in the background of the general note. Similarly, this universe, which is a modification of Maya, is never experienced separately, but only appears along with Brahman or pure consciousness. This universe is only an appearance and has no reality even when it is experienced. When, on the dawn of knowledge, it is realized that this Brahman is the indwelling self and that it is the only reality, it will be known that nothing other than Brahman is real. A person who has attained right knowledge from the scriptures and from his guru, and directly realized that his indwelling self is the one pure immutable consciousness, the Lord of the whole universe, who is all-pervading like space, and who is the indwelling self of all beings, and that the entire universe has no reality apart from Brahman, and is a mere appearance, and has thereby become free from all desire in this life itself, should remain ever established in the contemplation of his identity with the pure, non-dual Brahman. Indra, that being or enjoyer, who is in the right eye, and his wife, Indrani, who represents matter or the objects of enjoyment, and is in the left eye, are together in the space within the heart in the dream state. At the end of their enjoyment, there is the state of deep sleep, which ensues. This state is known in the Upanishads as Ananda Maya Kosa. In this state, the Shiva experiences supreme bliss, which is beyond description. There is no experience of any object then. A person who is in deep sleep and enjoying bliss should not be woken up suddenly. If he is woken up, the Upanishads say that his sense organs may not go back to their respective seats in the body, and this will cause great misery to him. In deep sleep, all living beings merge in Brahma and enjoy bliss. That same supreme bliss can be enjoyed always and not only in deep sleep if a person realizes his identity with Brahman, who is the protector of all the sense organs and the benefactor of all beings, both within the body and without. This being so, he who is always engaged only in external activities for the sake of earning a livelihood and commits sinful deeds, ever intent only on enjoying pleasures through his organs of touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste, will reap only grief and delusion. The Jivatman exerts himself in different ways to get sense pleasures in the waking state. When in the end his organs are totally fatigued, he forgets the happiness that he has so attained and goes to sleep in his own real nature for rest. It is clear from this that the bliss of one's own real nature, which is got much more easily and which does not come through the sense organs, is far superior to all the happiness acquired through the exertion of the various organs, which ultimately become insipid. A bird generates wind by flapping its wings, and by the help of that wind it soars high in the sky. There it spreads out its wings and flies towards its nest, propelled by the strong wind. Thereby it rids itself of fatigue. Similarly, the human being distressed and tormented in mind by evil thoughts, fancies, and desires for objects of sense, spreads out his hands and feet and sleeps for a long time in order to become free from fatigue. We're going to pause here. That's verse 68. So I will vouch for kind of what we've been enjoying. Where's the line I really liked here? It says, this being so, he who is always engaged in external activities for the sake of earning a livelihood and commits sinful deeds, ever intent only on enjoying pleasures through the organs, will reap only grief and delusion. Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that from my own 45 years on this planet. I agree with that having done things I thought were going to be amazing. I thought others would find it amazing. And at the end of the day, it was like, that's nice. And that's it. I will use an experience from my own life. So when I was 21, I published my first book. It was a 400-page book on the history of the parks and open spaces, the green spaces of my town, which went back 150 years. No one had ever written anything like this. And I was a 21-year-old punk kid that had been researching this for years and years and years. Yes, there's things in that book that no one had written about. Is it the best thing I've ever written? No, it makes me cringe really bad when I see it. There's things I wish I could do. Well, let me say, if I had the technology of today and I was writing it, it would just be so much better and better written and better researched, and there'd be things I'd talk about that I didn't before, but it was okay, and it was actually no better or any worse than a lot of other books that were being published locally. I sold 200 copies, made zero money. It cost me thousands of dollars. I had the idea that it would be successful and people would like it and they'd read it and I'd get all this feedback, and then I would start researching the parks in the county. Again, no one ever written about these. Now, I should say that there was a very, very active, and there remains to be a very active history community in this town. It's called Bellingham, Washington. Hilary Swank lived there. South of us was Mount Vernon, where Glenn Beck lived. And I was really involved in the history community that wrote about everything. It's just such a great little community. And so to write about parks wasn't really considered that odd. It was actually like, yeah, great. And there's been another parks book written that I'm aware of, and books on trails that have been written. Anyways, I was going to do the county because I thought they needed attention. I thought it'd be cool. And I figured, well, I'm going to be well known locally and I can just go out and visit these different places. I put out my parks book. I got a little article in the newspaper on it, sold the 200 copies. Some people really liked it. Did anyone read it? I am not sure. I honestly, to this day, have no idea if anyone read it. Or if they just didn't go, this is really nice, on the shelf. I know for a fact there were people who bought every single local Bellingham or Whatcom County history book. Every single one of them, put them on the shelf. They were the collectors. They were historians like myself. They didn't actually read any of them. And that's fine. I got it because I own a lot of books that I haven't read. And honestly, I bought a lot of local books that I never read. But it was a little disappointing because I thought something more would happen. I did have a bubble of fame that traveled with me until the day I left town. I used to do adult history talks and talks for the Historical Society, and I was asked to be a guest at a conference at my university, and this was after I graduated too, but I wasn't in the area anymore. So I did have some fame, and I wrote for the newspaper, an environmental newspaper, so I did have something, which is what I wanted, but I thought by making this book I would have some profound thing happen to my life, and it didn't happen at all. It so didn't happen that I never did the county history book. And I had begun to collect newspaper clippings, and I just dumped them. It wasn't interesting to me. I was bored. I felt like I had been churning wheels like a hamster. And I thought by the time I'm done churning, lights would shine and, I don't know, God would appear in heaven, theoretically speaking. And nothing happened. Because this was just a thing. It meant more to me than anybody else. And I only got out of it what I could put into it. The journey there was enjoyable. I met a lot of folks. I remember being, 21? Maybe I was 21 when I did this. I forget now. 2021, and, the youngest historian in town. I just had this book, and just a sense of unfulfillment coming over me. And maybe it was my youth. Maybe no one wanted to tap into me. Maybe it was my attitude, because I was a punk. I'll say it now, for reasons that have nothing to do with this story, that really I've only come to grips with over the last few years. I didn't think people liked me. I didn't see any reason but to imitate Groucho Marx. So I did, because no one liked me, so who cares what I say to people? But that's something else. That's personal growth that I had to go through. Lack of spirituality, a lack of knowing myself. I never could have read these scriptures back then. They would have been meaningless to me. Or they would have been purely academic. But it was really weird to come to this point where I'm 21 years old and I'm achieved something amazing, and it just... I felt so empty. And I think that started me on a path. I know my interest in religion picked up more. I started to look at the bigger picture. I stopped working hard for things I felt would have no value. I stopped saying, well, the most important thing you can do is your work and put all your soul into your work. Well, if you lose your job in 2 months, what have you done? Nothing. I stopped trying to create things that, I don't know, it really changed my life when I realized that all this stuff is really worthless. It's a horrible thing for a 21-year-old to realize, but I'm glad I did it then versus in my 50s. So I vouch for what he says here. And yes, it's pessimistic. No, it's not optimistic. Yes, it's realistic. No, it's not positive. But it's true. These things are nothing. They're just whatever. Yes, if you take this path that he recommends, or you take the path that I'm on, it will not be easy. You will sacrifice things. I'm 99.9% sure I probably could have made more money in my life. Way more money. Had I wanted to sell my soul to things that would have vanished. I know it. I know it. But too many of those people I have seen walk away going, I got nothing, and being in a state of desperation. So that's my talk for today. Flashback. There we were, to days of past. And no, you can't get that book today. No, you can't read it. Every so often a copy floats up on like eBay or something. Every few years. It's a collector's item now. So no, you can't read my old writing and see how shitty it was. And I don't want you to. If you want to read my new writing, there is a link down below to the 74 books that I have written since then. And if you want to support the channel, that's actually a really, really great way. That's the #1 way of supporting the channel. I get a few bucks off my books, and you're getting something back I hope you like. A lot of it's music related, but you'll find other things in there, fiction, spirituality, all sorts of stuff. I don't talk about this a lot because I don't do this channel for profit, but again, check the link below, find my website. It's a great way of supporting me, and you can buy my books just about anywhere online, including your local bookstore, if you do want to support the channel, since I'm talking about my books. With that, though, with that very rare plug, I think we're going to bring this video to a close. And, yeah, it's always interesting to read something from Adi Shankar written 2,700 years ago, or whatever it is, and go, yep, I got this. I see it. I see it today. I figured this out on my own, and I agree with him. It just makes this reading of these old scriptures so much more valuable. So with that, thank you for watching. I will say to you, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.